I mean, they shouldn't be.
Alright, let's give
How you doing? You okay?
Thank you, how are you?
Not bad, not bad. Is this the first time you've come to Speaker's Corner? Oh, okay. Well, to be honest, I come here quite often. I don't see you guys here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
what?
because you can tell her a mile off.
Pardon?
That you can tell her a mile off.
Yeah. What would you say your belief system is?
It's quite complex. How long have you got?
I've got enough time to speak to you about it. Go
Okay, so I was raised a strict Christian by my mother.
Yes.
I was raised in London. I very quickly decided that man-made religions were for me. I consider myself spiritual. I believe that God is inside of all of us and that love is God. And if you can feel love, then you can feel God, and you are a God in yourself, and you have the ability to put God into other people. I don't believe that God has a sex. I believe that there is a major architect. Life wasn't a result of chaos in the solar system. I don't know if we were put here by aliens, but there's no way that I can be standing here. I can conversate. I am the cosmos embodied, and that is a random act of bacteria growing in a wet pool. There's no way. So that's my belief system.
Look, there's
in
a lot.
nutshell.
Would you concur with that belief system?
I've got my own shit going on.
Go on, tell me. What's your relationship to each other?
Flatmate.
Flatmate. Busy mate.
Oh, okay. If you do that, some people are going to take it the wrong way. I think
That's it. There is no wrong way. Love is love. So what's your belief system?
All right. So look, there's a lot I agree with you on. First of all, I think let's start with the agreements.
Okay.
All right. So I think that you're right to say that there's a higher power of some sort. So you don't believe that everything came as a result of chaos. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's important. All right. So we realize that chaos is something which can't actually occur. If you think about the organization of the cosmos or so on, yeah? And then you realize, okay, you said I embody the cosmos. In a sense, of course you do, because in a sense, we're in the cosmos. We're in the world around us. We are part of the world. But here's what I would say. Look, I agree with you that we don't want to follow any man-made religions. And I also agree with your point that God is gender neutral. Right? So it can't be a man and it can't be a woman. Right? So all of these points are things I would say are agreements. Here's what I would say though. If you agree that there is a reasoning behind everything that exists, and that reasoning is attributed to a higher power. Let's say that higher power is God, for the sake of argument. Now what is...
Pardon? For an easy one, yeah. Go on.
All right, so this higher power now has created everything around us. I think you've come to that conclusion. Okay, fine. It's not, everything is not just a random generation. What is the relationship we should have with that particular higher power?
Yeah.
And what you seem to be communicating to me, which I agree with you to some extent, is that relationship we should have with the higher power is one which everything else in creation is having with that higher power. So we want to be, you said we want to be one with nature in a sense, yeah?
No, I didn't say that.
Go on, tell me.
So I actually do believe that there is evolution, and I do believe that life as we know it now has come from chaos and from evolution. Okay. But I believe specifically human beings, my emotional set that it cannot be replicated by an animal because I did not evolve from an animal, and I was given a life by something different. But obviously you can go into the Natural History Museum and you can clearly see how humans have evolved to some extent. But then there's this missing link. Oh, that's handy, isn't it? And a big bang. But then if you look at animals, you can actually see how there has been processes throughout the changes of the Earth's life cycle in the last millennium, millions of years, that have made animals be able to live the way that they've lived. However, I believe humans and animals aren't from the same breed, and that my God inside me, so everyone is God, is my conscience, is my ability to love, and is my ability to interact with other people and make them feel loved as well.
What you seem to be communicating is that, all right, there's all of these processes that are taking place on Earth.
Yeah.
They appear to us to be random, but then there seems to be some kind of power that's guiding everything.
So if you're talking about animal evolution,
okay, go.
So for instance, say there's animal evolution, there's a big wipeout, lots of the species die. So I've got 5 types of tiger. One type of tiger's got a especially long fur coat. 4 types of those tigers will die out, one will survive, and then they will breed those rest of the tigers, and then they will individually have their own genetic mutations, how evolution works, right? That's not somebody who's got like magic wand, bush, bish, bosh.
No, I understand. No, I get it. But here's what I want to say to you.
Yeah.
Let me deal with this contention straight on,
Okay, right.
The point of mutations, or what's referred to sometimes as random mutations, is sometimes used in atheistic discourse to try and do away with the idea of, let's say, an organizer or the ultimate,
an architect,
or an architect or something.
Yeah.
This is kind of like where Charles Darwin, he started off actually in his Origins of Species by saying that there is an architect, and this is the process that he's saying, and then he went off to talk about actually there may not
like
be
a work in process.
right. So he started refuting William Paley and so on. But the point I wanted to make to you is this: is that most atheists that I've come across. Let me give you one name, Sam Harris. Okay, Sam Harris is one of the most popular pop atheists in the world now. Yeah, he says he believes in determinism. Determinism is basically this. He says that everything that comes before has a reason or causation. There's an uninterrupted line of causation. In other words, what I'm saying to you right now is not something I'm saying out of free will, but it's because I'm pushed out of necessity to say it.
Okay.
Now, if you think about what atheists say, listen, bro, I'm just speaking to I'll speak to you later, brother, yeah? This guy's a bit weird, man. He's embarrassing himself in front of the people. Yeah. Now, having said that, what I was going to say was this, is that if you believe, like Sam Harris does, and like most atheists do, that in fact, all the orders are determined because there's an uninterrupted causal line, which we don't have any control over, then you can't then say that there's a random mutation, because the word random, it contradicts determinism.
Okay, but I never said that first point.
I know. But what I'm saying is this, is that the point for determinism, which most atheists accept,
Most of them do.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, that's good, because we'll move on to a free will discussion.
Yeah.
But it contradicts the idea of a
course
random
it does.
mutation,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is this, is that first and foremost, the new atheistic narrative, which a lot of people, like living in the world that we live in now, are exposed to. You listen to Richard Dawkins, you listen to Sam Harris, you listen to these individuals, and then you come out with
Like a fate and destiny
something of what they're saying, and you rephrase it in your own kind of spiritual way, and you think that you're coming up with something new. Really and truly, you're just absorbing the social forces around you, and you're coming up with your own articulation. Accepted. But what I'm saying is now the 100 monkeys.
There's a low chance, but it's a chance. And of course chance exists.
But
Or else
Lindsay-
why is that? Did you call me Lindsay?
Oh, sorry.
You haven't asked my name yet. Oh, I'm Angela.
I don't shake hands with women.
Oh,
for religious
really?
reasons. Yeah.
In that case, I don't think I can speak to you anymore.
Why? Is that what?
Shake hands with her.
Because I think that's really offensive.
No,
That's okay. You have your belief set and I will have mine. But at that point, I'm
Shake hands with
But
her.
hold on. Let me tell you something though, yeah?
Oh my.
This is good. It shows you that they're incapable of having a conversation with someone who doesn't believe in certain values. So they wouldn't be shaking hands with a tribal leader in Africa. They'd walk away from them. Because you're not allowed to shake hands with tribal leaders in Africa. If you had a Jew, you wouldn't shake hands with them because they're an Orthodox Jew. So in other words, if you don't believe in our liberal values the way we accept them and the way we shape them and the way then we're not going to have conversations with you. So that's intolerance. That's liberal intolerance. And I'm very happy it was on camera. Walk away. It's feministic intolerance. White person's intolerance. Very good. I'm very happy. Walk away. Because you know what? I'm going to speak to people on my terms. You know, if you don't want to touch me, you don't have to touch me. I'm not going to force you to touch me. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Now, and this is the ridiculousness of feminism. Let's move on to the subject now. Let's change the subject to something else. If a woman, think about this from a second wave feministic discourse. If a woman decided that she doesn't want to be touched by a man, and that was her feministic stance, that actually I don't want to be, touched by a man, etc., then it would be a matter of stance, a matter of ideology. And if I were to protest against that, I'll say, look, this is the autonomous decision making of a woman who is second wave feminist, who decided that she doesn't want to be touched by a man. Why should you enforce your will to touch a man? And in the same way now, as Muslims, we're being forced to do certain things, like having a discussion with someone in the park, and at one point she says, okay, I'm not going to speak to you because you're not shaking my hand. So what's next? The point is this, is that as Muslims, we don't need to deal with people like that, to be honest with you. As conservative, or whatever you want to call us, orthodox or traditionalist Muslims, if you don't want to speak to me on my terms, look, I'm accepting the fact that you might be a homosexual. I only ask for your pronouns. I mean, I don't even know what you are. If you're a man or woman or whatever, Lindsay or whatever your name is, Jack, John, and your boyfriend or your girlfriend, whoever it is that you had with you. Because I don't know the pronouns of that individual that you had with you, that both of you walked away. But for me, say for example, I'm not in favor of transgenderism as a stance, that you can actually change your biological sex from man to woman. I'm happy to have a conversation with someone who identifies themselves as a woman, even though they're biologically born as a man. Why? Because this is meant to be a free discussion with people that believe in different things. You can't handle it when someone doesn't want to shake your hand or touch your body, or doesn't want you to touch their hand or shake their body. What's wrong with you? At the end of the day, this is liberal, the muscular liberalism that David Cameron was talking about, which in fact is an impingement of traditionalist rights. We as Muslims have to stand here and say, you know what, if you don't want to talk to us on that basis, then we don't need to talk to you anyway. Because as Muslims, we have our own standards. And our own standards are based on Quran, Sunnah. If you can't accept that, if liberalism can't, and its permutations, feministic, liberalistic permutations, can't tolerate anything other than itself, listen carefully, if liberalism and its feministic permutations cannot tolerate anything other than itself, I say to you, what kind of liberalism is that? You don't even understand this ideology that you claim to believe in. If you're a free will, someone who believes in free will, as her point was, and liberalism, then really, why should you force me to touch you? Why should you force me to touch you? This whole thing of, and it's been part of the discourse nowadays, shake my hand or else. What? I'm a traditionalist Muslim. I might decide not to shake your hand. What, am I forced now to do something outside of my will? Because that becomes a kind of totalitarian system. You got to do this and you got to do that. All right, let's go to the synagogues and force the men and women to be together. Let's go to the synagogues and get the Orthodox Jews and get them to shake your hand. Same thing. Let's go to, and that's why we don't see them. We don't see those kinds of discourses with Jews. It's very unfair. When you look at, actually, I was looking recently on a Daily Mail newspaper, and they were showcasing the marriage between Jewish Orthodox people, and in that marriage, there was a separation between men and women. A full separation between men and women. Now think of this, instead of criticizing, as they have with the Muslim community, the act of separating men and women, what they instead decided to do was, in a sense, talk about the interesting nature of that, without a negative undertone or subtext. So what I'm trying to say is that how comes you have this way of dealing with the Jewish community, but when it comes to the Muslim community, you're starting to do this. Now look, what I'm saying is that as Muslims, if you can't handle having people that believe in different things in your community, then you can't handle your own ideology. It's not even about us anymore. You don't even abide by the principles you set for yourselves. And so we have to retune the narratives. I think that nowadays there's a white person getting too rowdy like that. So to be honest, that's what it is. The white man thinks he's better than me. I see that white girl thought she was better than me. I'm not going to talk to you. Get out of here. I don't want to talk to you or your boyfriend there or girlfriend, to be honest with you. I don't know what she is or he is or it is that you had there with you next to you. And I don't want to talk to any white man thinking they're better than me. Come on equal terms, you understand? Just because I'm brown and believe in something different, don't try and colonialize me. I'm not your little slave and you're my master. We're past those days, my man. That's what we have to do. What we have to do in the Muslim, what traditional Muslims have to do to get a job nowadays. Imagine she was, I want you to put this question in mind. Imagine she was an employer. Yeah? Imagine what kind of discrimination I would face if I was trying to get a job and she was my boss. Think about that. She walked away. By walking away, she's just humiliated herself in the worst way possible. Yeah? And she's just put herself as a case study for tens of thousands of people to see. Just imagine this. She did, I'm not going to talk to you. All right, cool. That's your stance, which means you can't tolerate certain traditionalist Muslim views, or Jewish views, or Christian views, or whatever it may be. What I did was, I came into the interview, and I wrapped my hand around, like in a cast. And I came in, and the woman was like this. And I was like this. Now I had the cast on. Now I didn't say to her my hand was broken or nothing. I just, you know. And then this woman was insistent. So she tried to go for the other hand. Yeah. So there was a coffee on the table.
Hannibal Peace, bro.
Like I grabbed it quickly and I was like, I saw her coming close, so I went like this. And I started talking to her nicely. At the end of the day, I got the job for that particular work. Do you want to talk about it? No. Actually, no. But no problem. I got the job at the end. Before something happened and I had to leave that job out of no choice of my own. But the point I'm making is that these are real life issues for Muslims, traditionalist Muslims in the world today. And not only Muslims, I'm thinking Jews probably have the same issues. You know, it's one thing to have your views your colonialist, liberal, orientalist views about Muslims. But now when it becomes a matter of discrimination, and you are not even capable of holding conversation to me, you're not even capable of being in my presence because of this, then we know for a fact that the issue has become an issue of racism, really, and or an issue of discrimination. Because a lot of these people don't care what religion you are. This brown guy with a beard, not shaking your hand, whatever. So here's what I say as Muslims, we really need to reclaim the narrative. Otherwise, you're going to have another generation of young people having to do what I did to get us after a long time. I get what I say. So to end the point there, what she did there, or what it did there, I don't know what the pronouns were. What that individual did was a case study of someone who is intolerant and cannot hold down a conversation. And had that person been in another context, that would have been detrimental to someone's livelihood, to someone's bread-winning ability, bread-making, and so on and so forth. So think about that, inshallah. And you've got a really good time.